is Alistair Saxon, and I've spent my life in the shadows, hunting the creatures that most believe to be mere myths and legends. I work for a secret organization known only as the Shadows, and our mission is to protect the world from the unknown threats that lurk in its hidden corners. This time, my task brought me to the icy waters of Norway, where an ancient terror had awakened. The call had come in the middle of the night, a frantic voice speaking of something monstrous in the sea, something that had attacked ships, dragging them down into the watery depths. The word Kraken was whispered with fear and awe, a name that sent shivers down the spines of those who knew its legend. I arrived in a small coastal village in Norway, a place where the sea was both a lifeline and a constant threat. The people there were hardy and reserved, their faces etched with the marks of a life lived in the shadow of the ocean. They spoke of the Kraken with a reverence that bordered on religious, a creature of myth that had suddenly become all too real. The village was in turmoil, the once bustling harbor now eerily quiet. Fishing boats lay at anchor, their crews too terrified to venture out into the open sea. A livelihood had been taken away, and a way of life threatened by a creature that seemed to have stepped out of the pages of folklore. I met with the village elder, a man named Olaf, whose eyes held the wisdom of many years and the sorrow of recent events. He told me of the first attack, a fishing boat caught in a storm, its crew helpless as tentacles rose from the depths and pulled the vessel under. There were no survivors. The story was the same each time. A sudden storm, a monstrous shape in the water, and a ship lost to the sea. The Kraken had awakened, and it was hungry. My first task was to understand the creature, to delve into its legend and discover the truth behind the myth. I spent days poring over ancient texts and speaking with local historians, unraveling the tale of the Kraken. It was a creature of immense size and power, a cephalopod that made its home in the deepest trenches of the ocean. The legends spoke of its ability to create storms, its tentacles strong enough to crush a ship, its beak capable of tearing through the strongest steel. The Kraken had been a part of Norse mythology for centuries, a symbol of the sea's fury and a reminder of nature's untamed power. But why had it awakened now? What had disturbed its slumber? I soon found a clue, a pattern in the attacks, a path that led to a specific area of the ocean, a place where the sea floor dropped into a dark abyss, the Kraken's lair. I knew that I had to face the creature, to go to its home and confront it on its terms. It was a dangerous task, one that required careful planning and unwavering courage. But it was the only way to stop the terror and restore peace to the village. I assembled a team of local fishermen, brave men who knew the sea and were willing to face its darkest secrets. Together, we prepared a ship, a sturdy vessel equipped with the latest technology and armed with the ancient knowledge that I had gleaned from my research. The day came, and we set sail, the sea calm and the sky clear. The men were quiet, their faces set in determined lines, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resolve. We were heading into the unknown, into the lair of a legend. Days turned into nights as we ventured further from shore, the sea becoming wilder, the weather more unpredictable. The Kraken's presence was felt long before we reached its lair, a dark energy that seemed to permeate the very water, a malevolent force that watched and waited. Then, on the third day, we arrived. The ocean's surface was churning, the sky filled with dark clouds, a storm brewing in the distance. We were at the edge of the abyss, the place where the sea floor dropped into darkness, the Kraken's lair. The men were tense, their hands gripping the rails, their eyes scanning the water, waiting for a sign. I stood at the bow, my mind focused, my body ready. I knew that the battle was about to begin, that the Kraken would not let us enter its domain without a fight. And then it happened. A sudden gust of wind, a roar of thunder, and the sea erupted into chaos. Waves crashed against the ship. Lightning streaked across the sky, and the air was filled with the sound of something ancient and terrifying. The Kraken had awakened, and it was angry. We fought to keep the ship steady, the crew working as one, their faces pale, but their actions sure. I knew that we were in the Kraken's territory now, that it was in control, that it would come at us with all its might. And come it did. A dark shape rose from the depths, a mass of tentacles that reached for the ship, a monstrous form that seemed to defy reality. The Kraken was upon us, and the battle had begun. The crew fought bravely, using harpoons and nets, trying to hold the creature at bay. But the Kraken was relentless, its tentacles smashing through the ship's defenses, its power overwhelming. I knew that conventional weapons were useless, that I had to find another way. I reached into the knowledge I had gained, into the ancient wisdom that spoke of the Kraken's nature, its weaknesses, its fears, and then I had it. A plan. A strategy, a chance to defeat the beast and send it back to the depths. But time was running out. The Kraken was closing in, the ship was taking damage, and the men were losing hope. I looked into the eyes of the creature, into the dark void that held a primal rage, a timeless hunger. I knew that I was facing a force of nature, a being that had existed long before humanity, a monster that would not be easily defeated. But I also knew that I was Alistair Saxon, a hunter of monsters, a defender of humanity. I had faced the unknown before, and I would do it again. I took a deep breath, gathered my strength, and prepared to face the Kraken. The battle had only just begun. The battle raged on, and the Kraken seemed to be gaining the upper hand. Its tentacles were relentless, smashing through the ship's hull, dragging men into the sea, and threatening to pull us all into the depths. The storm whipped around us, lightning illuminating the Kraken's ghastly form. Fear was in the eyes of the men, but they fought on, inspired by a sense of duty and the knowledge that they were the village's last hope. I knew that brute force would not win this battle. Kraken was too powerful, too ancient, but it was not invincible. In my research, I had discovered a tale, a story of how the Kraken had once been defeated by a clever trick, a play on its senses, its instincts. It was said to be attracted to certain frequencies, sounds that could either lure it or repel it. I ordered the crew to load the ship's cannons, but not with the usual ammunition. Instead, we used specially crafted devices that I had prepared based on the ancient texts. These were sonic emitters, designed to produce the exact frequency that, according to legend, could confuse and disorient the Kraken. The men looked at me with a mixture of disbelief and trust. They knew that this was our only chance, a desperate gamble that might just save us all. I gave the command, and the cannons fired, the sonic emitters launching into the sea, sending waves of sound into the water. At first, nothing happened. The Kraken continued its assault, its tentacles reaching for us, its beak snapping, its eyes filled with a primal fury. But then, slowly, something changed. The Kraken's movements became erratic, its attacks less coordinated. It seemed to be struggling, confused, disoriented. The sonic emitters were working, the sound waves interfering with its senses, disrupting its control over the storm and its own body. We pressed our advantage. maneuvering the ship to avoid its attacks, firing harpoons and nets, trying to restrain it, to weaken it further. The Kraken fought back, its instincts driving it to attack, to destroy. But it was losing ground, its power waning, its dominance slipping away. Hours passed, and the battle continued, a struggle of wills, a test of courage and strength. We were pushing the Kraken back, forcing it into retreat, driving it towards the abyss from which it had come. But we were also taking damage, the ship leaking, the crew exhausted, the end still uncertain. Finally, as the sun began to rise, casting a pale light over the stormy sea, we saw our chance. The Kraken was near defeat, its body battered, its spirit broken. It was trying to escape, to flee back to the depths, to the safety of its lair. But we would not let it go. With a final push, we cornered it, trapping it against a rocky outcrop, its massive form writhing and thrashing, its eyes filled with a mix of rage and fear. I knew that this was the moment, that we had to finish it, to end the terror that had haunted the village. I stood at the bow, a specially crafted spear in my hand, a weapon imbued with ancient runes and sacred oils, a tool designed to pierce the Kraken's tough hide and reach its heart. The crew held the creature at bay, their faces set, their eyes watching me, knowing that the fate of the village, of us all, rested on what happened next. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility, the burden of the battle. I looked into the Kraken's eyes, seeing the creature not as a monster, but as a force of nature, a being that had been awakened, disturbed, provoked. But it had to be done. With a cry, I leaped from the ship, spear in hand, plunging into the sea, into the Kraken. I struck, the spear finding its mark, piercing the creature's flesh, reaching its heart. The Kraken let out a deafening roar, its body convulsing, its tentacles flailing. It tried to fight, to survive, but it was too late. Slowly, its movements ceased, its eyes dimmed, its life ebbed away. The Kraken was defeated. The sea calmed, the storm abated, the sky cleared. We had won. We returned to the village, weary but victorious, our ship battered but unbroken, our crew reduced but unyielding. The people welcomed us, their faces filled with gratitude, their hearts lifted by the knowledge that the terror was over, that the Kraken was no more. I stood on the shore, looking out at the sea, knowing that we had done what had to be done, that we had faced the unknown and emerged triumphant. But I also knew that the world was filled with mysteries, with creatures and forces that defied understanding, that challenged our beliefs and our fears. I knew that my journey was not over, that there were more battles to fight, more monsters to hunt, more legends to unravel. For I was Alistair Saxon, and the shadows were my home.